Hold on. Yeah.
The stream is live. There you go.
Yeah. And if anyone can hear us during the countdown, sorry for being late. You get a second countdown. Well, first, because you've never seen it, but I love technology.
Love testing software on the fly.
Hey, everybody. Wes McDonald, Randy Dazo here, and we're having a little chuckle because there's some new features in the live stream software. It actually took us fully 3 times to get it to go live, and so that was rather fun. Hopefully, you enjoyed our little bit of banter there as we went through the countdown. And Randy, really good to see you again.
Great seeing you too, Wes.
Yeah, and I wonder if you can. We always do this, right? Like to let people. Well, first of all, let me start with. We have a guest I am so excited to have on the show today. He's one of my my AI buddies, I will call him, because it's kind of rare still to this day because we're early into this, right? To find somebody that's as excited about artificial intelligence as we are, right? And Jon is definitely in that camp. So I won't give any more thunder until we get there. But by way of introduction, Randy, why don't you tell people a little bit about you?
So my name is Randy Dazo. I am the Chief Strategy and Operations Officer at Keypoint Intelligence. We are a market research, consulting, testing, platforms, training, and a whole bunch of other things, and now also artificial intelligence.
Nice. And for everyone that hasn't seen me before, for those that do know me, I'm Wes McDonald, also known as the AI Wolverine. And a company called GoWest.ai. We live, breathe, and sleep artificial intelligence solutions for businesses. So super excited. Randy and I do this every week. So if it's your first time joining in, make sure that you check us out for upcoming episodes. We have them booked all the way through to the end of the year. And one of the things, Randy, maybe tell people where you are. Where are you? You're not watching today because you're actually hosting, but where are you looking at this from?
I am from Fairfield, New Jersey, and it's a nice sunny day here in Fairfield.
Nice. Yeah, it was actually good to see you down in your neck of the woods in person. I don't know. Has it been a month already? Probably
Yeah, a
close
couple
to
weeks. Yeah, no, that's right. Yep. It's getting a little
months.
chillier though here in New Jersey, you know?
And for everyone else, I'm watching from Canada, so I'm located across from Buffalo, right on the border. We're called border rats because literally people ask, "Oh, you must go to Toronto all the time." It's like, no, it's an hour and a half away to 2 hours. I go to Buffalo all the time because that's 20 minutes from where I live, right? So, as a Canadian, we're definitely border rats. Do with that with what you will. And what we'd encourage everyone to do, if you're joining in with us today, let us know where you're watching from. So, and Randy, I know you did have something to say about some of the folks. It's not easy times in some areas right now.
Yeah, just a quick shout out to the folks in Florida and anyone else that's in that area. Obviously, this is the second hurricane that you guys are going through, and just our thoughts and prayers are with you guys as always.
Yeah. And for friends that are out there, you know who you are. I've already messaged you. Just be safe, and hopefully things are going really well.
Yeah.
And for everyone else, let us know where you're watching from. If you have comments and questions as we move through, feel free to ask those too. It's a lot more fun when you have a question. Don't be afraid. There's no such thing as a dumb question. Make sure that you throw those out there too. And it looks like we got Mr. Greg Walters joining us from Michigan. So hey, good to see you there. And
Greg
we've
is
got a
always with
guest.
us.
Yeah, I think it's good. I'm going to bring in our guest now, actually, because obviously he's from somewhere else. And Jon Evans, how are you, my friend?
Hi, I'm doing great.
Yeah, and
you
where are
can
you
hear me all
joining
right?
us from? Yeah,
I'm just outside of Chicago, Illinois, in a beautiful, probably 50-something degree day and high blue skies. Perfect intro to fall. So yeah.
Well, love it.
Very nice.
And want to make sure people get to know you. And it's funny, the next banner I'm going to show up is going to be interesting. And that's one of those things about when we first met. I remember at ECS, right, that you talked about some of this. But I don't know. I think if we're going to meet you, we got to talk a little bit about punk rock, birds, artificial intelligence, and of course, what you're doing at Impact.
Yeah, for sure. I always tell people if you can wake me up at 4 a.m. and I'd be happy to talk to you about any one of those subjects. But yeah. That's how I spend the majority of my time is punk rock, birds, and transformation. In the transformation space, obviously, the last couple of years have been really, really focused on artificial intelligence. So it's taken up the majority of my time, I gotta say. But yeah, in addition, I've been a punk rock fan since I was a wee lad, and then for the last 10, 12 years or so, hunting down every bird I can find. Not necessarily hunting, but looking for every bird I can find uh, through binoculars. But yeah.
All right.
We talked a little bit about that, before the beginning of the show, right? And the first time I met you, I learned that you like punk rock, which was awesome. And the second time, sort of talking through stuff, obviously learning what you're doing, deeper levels with AI. But today was the first time I heard about birding.
Oh
And
yeah.
I don't know if it's the same down in sort of the Chicago area on the water, but we have more bald eagles here now than I've ever seen in my life.
Oh
Right?
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
most of the waterways here, which is pretty
Right.
exciting, right?
It's a real success story, like of environmentalism and the sort of reemergence of a species pulled back from a pretty near disastrous brink. So yeah.
Yeah. And I got to ask because obviously you're using AI now. Have you used any of the AI image recognition, like the computer vision,
Oh
to
yeah,
look at?
for
Yeah,
sure.
it's
Yeah, and
crazy, right?
there's AI that's built into the built into song recognition too. So there's apps that you can use that listen for birds and then report which species they're hearing and so on and so forth.
Yeah,
Like
someone introduced that to
it's
me at the beginning of the summer, and it's crazy, like how
yeah,
it can do that, right?
yeah, exactly. And that intersection of technology and in birds is something that was like always apparent to me. Um, not because they're not real, as Greg pointed out, but because
Right,
there's clearinghouses for all of this
Couple
data.
conspiracy theories for Greg.
Exactly. So there's sort of a citizen scientist element to the whole thing as well. Like there's a lot of data analysis that goes into figuring out like where migratory birds are, where are they going to be, and how do you accrue all that data. And then there's tools that are provided by Cornell University that you're able to parse through all of that data and so on and so forth. But yeah, lately that intersection is really at photo recognition and machine learning algorithms for audio files and live sound, and it's pretty incredible.
It really is. And that actually brings us to our first segment, which is something we go through every time we do this. And it's kind of news, right? So, a couple of big things that have come out. And I know, sort of on the advanced voice functionality, for anyone that hasn't seen it, I just want to give people a quick, or listen to it, I should say, give a quick demo. Okay, so I've got Jon here on the line. Can you tell me what you know about Jon from our past interactions?
Sure. Jon Evans is leading the AI efforts in punk networking. He's a big fan of punk rock. You first met him at ECS 2024, and you're looking forward to seeing him again ECS 2025. Plus, he's joining your live stream with Randy Dazo this morning. How can I assist with your chat?
Yeah, I was just curious. We were actually just talking about computer vision and birds, right? Like doing identification for sounds and and also for visuals. What do you think about that? Is that cool? Is it scary? What the hell?
Sounds pretty cool, actually. Computer and audio recognition for birds can be a game changer for research and conservation efforts. Imagine being able to identify bird species just from a photo or a sound clip. It can make bird watching more accessible and help track bird populations and migration patterns. It's a perfect example of how AI can connect us more deeply.
Oh, sorry. I know. I don't mean to interrupt, but my dog Luna just came in. Can you talk to her in the way that we talk to Luna?
Of course. Hello, Luna.
Nice.
A sweet girl, aren't you? Yes, you are.
Okay, that's enough of that.
That's pretty
And just
cool.
one last thing. Can you tell me about Impact Networking, what they do for their customers?
Absolutely. Impact Networking provides a variety of technology solutions, primarily focusing on IT services, cybersecurity, digital transformation, and managed print services. They help businesses streamline their operations, improve efficiency, and secure their IT infrastructure. With their comprehensive suite of services, they cater to various business needs, from managing IT systems and networks to ensuring data protection and compliance.
Wow. So what you're saying really is they are they are rocking it.
Exactly. They're definitely working.
Thank you. So wanted to show that, right? I'm not sure how much you played around with it, right? But
Yeah.
I can't, like, I'm using it all the time now. And for a lot of people that don't realize, you've been able to convert, sort of AI into a voice from text, but that takes time, right? There's a delay, there's
Yeah.
all kinds of stuff. And this technology, now that they've released this piece of it, at least, is actually doing voice to hearing without any transcription whatsoever. So it's like that.
Yeah.
And that memory feature, I know. Tell me, what do you think? Like, is that memory feature a little creepy? Is it cool? Like,
Oh, I love it. I'm a big fan. I used the first few versions, and I remember trying to get people excited about it. Like, hey, check this out, and everybody was like, yeah, it's laggy. Like, I don't know, so on and so forth. Now, like, the response time has really pushed the envelope on that, right? Personally, like, as a consumer of that technology, I use it all the time during commutes to kind of like brainstorm and take notes and organize things. And I have conversations with, my AI assistant in this particular space. And then by the time I get home, I have everything organized and understood. But the interesting piece is, like, there's a novelty aspect to the sort of voice to voice, and then how do we kind of funnel that into the business space to start to
business world.
understand, like, yeah, like, how do I find the value in there? And one of the use cases that we're exploring in the voice to voice, as it's being released through on the API side, we're working on an MPS assistant that can help people who are copier technicians that are making their way out to into the field to service equipment and things like that. I in my head, the final version of this in 2025 will really be, the service technician gets in the van and they get dispatched, and they're being told, like, you're headed to this particular company. They have error code, 1234 on this particular machine. I suggest you run through these, and then they get to reply back to the bot and have a conversation and prepare them for the things that need to happen when they get to the door of that particular call. So first version of that is really, how do we process all of that data into the RAG model space so that we can thoroughly get through it and get accurate replies. Next layer of that will be, how do I make it conversational and put those things together. So I'm excited about the voice space, and also it's been the sort of holy grail of computer interface space for quite a while. Like, how do you break the human keyboard barrier and make things more efficient? I'm super stoked about where this is going.
Yeah, it's amazing. I had a friend, who's also my business advisor, come up, and one of the things that we do every time he comes up is we do some tourism, right? So I've never seen Niagara Falls from the U.S. side, and there's a fort down there which I knew nothing about, and having this back and forth conversation about the history of the location and everything else, right? And I'm telling you, John, it's like before, when people had apathy, some of the other tourists that were around us and stuff, were gathering around to listen to it.
Yeah.
Man, it's one of those new museum things where they give you this self-guided educational tour. It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
The other one I just threw up there, I'm just going to share my screen. Oh, go ahead, Randy. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, I actually was watching a video on YouTube where someone had two phones, and they had the voice assistants talking to each other as if they were on a date, and he actually prompted them to actually start talking in a new language that made it more efficient. And it started doing that. And at the end of the video, they were actually just talking to each other in something totally uncomprehendable by us. But they were conversing with each other. They were actually, training it along the way, and you could actually figure it out if you were watching the entire video. But it was really, really wild. So yeah, very cool stuff.
Well, and one of the things that I've actually started to use it for, and Randy, you know this because we work together on this, but for our assessment process, there's the Canadian in me. We actually have a dial number with a similar sort of AI voice agent, which guides people through an interview, right? And what's crazy, like in the old days, it would ask a question, you'd wait for an answer, and hopefully you got it. Now it pushes back. Like, it's like, well, that's great, Randy. I'm glad you work at Key Point Intelligence, but could you please give me a little more detail on what that looks like on a daily basis, right? That you can train it to, to make sure that it's getting enough detail before it moves on to the next question, right? So, like you, John, it's early days, right? But it's still to be able to like where we've come with that. When we first met, John, like at ECS, these weren't even options. These kind of things didn't exist in the AI.
No, exactly. like that explosion. I mean, that was less than a year ago. Like we were there
Oh.
in January, right? And
Oh, yeah.
the
a
difference
year.
between the technology in January to now, I mean, it's ridiculous when we think that what the pace of this particular technology is and what the future in this space holds. It's just like there's
So exponential. It's
yeah.
crazy to just think about what can happen in the next 6 months, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And it's so interesting too, because that kind of ambiguity, there's responses that people have to that, and some of those responses can be like, I'm gonna wait and see, right? But really the people that are like making moves are the people who are really understanding that at a foundational layer, you need to have technology in place that does even the things we're currently doing in order to capture what we can expand upon in the near future. This is like foundational building spaces. Oh, I love
Well,
it.
here's one that's getting crazier. So, when you
Yeah.
talked about users being kind of apathetic to AI, there's nothing worse than just having this chat window and it's like, oh, this is exciting, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna, but I'm doing it anyway. I'm saying I need to write an e-guide on using AI for birding, visual ID, sound migration paths, etc. Right? And so, of course, this is what people do. They just write something simple and they try and
Mhm.
start an outline on what they should be doing, right? And it's kind of moving through its thing. But to edit in this, for anyone that's done this from the creative side where it gets frustrating,
Yeah.
is that you really have to scroll through the whole thing once it's done. Here we go. Oh, look, there's ethical considerations of AI and birding. Did you know that, John?
Yes.
Got to be careful what type of binoculars you use or focal length or something, right? Like
You
what
want
the
to
bird,
give the bird some distance, not
some
Give it some
not
distance.
encroach.
privacy, you know?
So obviously this is going to be crap because anything that's AI generated at first is, right. But at least it's an outline and whatever. And I'd have to scroll through this and then make some notes and then start to do edits or copy and paste it into Word or something like that. But now what I can do is open up the new Canvas feature, right? And it is beta right now, but it's absolutely wild. I can say open Canvas for editing, and instead of having to just like look at this boring page now, it actually recreates the view that we have and the ability and the tool
Yeah.
sets that we have to be able to play with it, right? And I won't go through the whole thing. What I will do though now is in the old time we'd have to update the whole thing. What I can actually do now, let's actually go down to that where it was an ethical one. Here we go. For this section here, I can once I highlight this, it actually gives me options to say, can we add something about playing punk versus hip hop because birds deserve it.
Yeah. Right.
Birds deserve it. And when I hit enter, now it's going to go through, and instead of updating the whole thing, it literally, as it thinks, it's going to change it right here in the ethical section, right?
Yeah.
So it's really wild. So now we can go through and start to look at what the changes are. It's just crazy, right? So if anyone hasn't tried this new feature yet, it also has the abilities to update the tone. So from a kindergarten voice to college voice, I'll show you what that looks like down here once it's done, right? So there we go. If the reading level, and I don't know, maybe we want to make this for someone who's in kindergarten,
Yeah.
and now instead of having to prompt it, I just click it and it will update, and so many other things, right? So pretty cool. I'm not sure if you guys have played with it much yet.
Yeah, I have, and it's when my first experiences with it were really, I was like, I think OpenAI might have been watching what I've been doing. Because like these features fit perfectly into my workflow. Like it was pretty incredible. But yeah, there's previously it was a lot of like prompt generation, cut and paste, edit, bring back, go on, so on and so forth. And that feature sort of takes away all of the bumping from one place to another, all of the other editing, and it throws it all in line. But yeah, Greg just mentioned the notebook LM, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
I feel like this is the thing I'm seeing, right? Is there's more spaces that are being developed where you are sort of creating almost these bespoke RAG models on the fly. You're basically saying like, here's 15 documents, understand these documents. Here's my notes. Here's some chat. Here's ways to put all of this sort of stuff together into one particular space. And I feel like Canvas is moving in that same direction. And then Copilot has their own their own space to be able to do that. That's coming up here in their Wave 2 features. But yeah, people keep mentioning the podcast thing. I think between me and the director of AI tech on my team, we and the business analyst Anna, we've probably generated I don't know 50 podcasts from nonsense and just trying to dial it in. And we have a few use cases that are actually on the docket now too that are going to use that same sort of technology where we're going to be able to make podcasts that we can do things like weekly wrap-ups of how sales teams are performing and what's happening in the environment, and make those podcasts on a Thursday, distribute them on Friday, talk about them on Monday, right? And people consume information stickier in different ways. So getting those summarizations and things to happen in that space, I think, is going to be huge.
I love that interactivity of the podcast way of doing it, though, where it's conversational,
Yeah.
just like we now. You get different insights when you listen to people talking back and forth versus just reading a summary, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So this stuff is all very exciting. It's all very cool. Why the dealer AI apathy, right? Like one of the things I can tell you, from being at this for, over a year now, is that some dealers, Impact, very progressive, very on top of it. Other dealers, don't bother me. We've got, pages to sell, right? So what do you think causes some of the apathy? And I would say that there's a lot of it in our channel, right? So what do you think kind of drives that?
Yeah. I think I'm going to let Randy answer this one for starters before. I feel like I've talked over him a couple of times, so I want to give Randy some space. Sorry, man.
No. I think Greg's. I mean, I think. Sorry. I think Wes right. The dealers have a focus on what they've been doing in the past, and they're not thinking about what's the future. And you got to really look at what the customers are really interested in these days, and really provide the things that are really progressing, in the market. And you can't be left behind these days too with that.
Yeah, I would totally agree. The status quo piece, that I think is the most important part of this. If I have some model that's working and it's currently working, I can make an assumption about safety and say like, oh, I'm good. The status quo is good. Today is always going to be like tomorrow. Like our brains are tuned to understand the future as a reference point of today, right? Like, oh, this is what today looks like. Tomorrow's probably going to be a little bit similar, and I can wait until I get pushed in that particular direction. But the reality is that if you dawdle on this particular issue, you're going to end up in the position to have to say, oh, I have to go from 0 to 200 instead of 1 to 25 or 1 to 50. I have to accelerate. I have to find ways to change culture. I have to find ways to get employees who may be culturally resistant to using this sort of technology on board and running in order to make this happen, as opposed to slowly making your way through the progress, adopting and adapting technology through the whole thing. But the apathy to me is always about their certainty or their fear of uncertainty. It's like, I'm certain that what I'm doing is absolutely great, or I'm so uncertain about where this is going, I'm going to wait. It's always somewhere in there.
I think I agree, right? And, I really like your, talk track, though, about the time, right? Like having to go from 0 to 100. Yeah. I think it's almost like, within a year, like we just demonstrated a couple of killer technologies. The third one we talked about with the podcasting, which will have further implications, right? This movement of, and we'll talk about this one in a second, AI agents. It's happening so fast that it's like 0 to 1,000, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You got to have this in your vernacular. You got to be living it every day. And that's one thing I would certainly encourage. And I'll say on the safety side, by not kind of embracing and understanding at least this whole shadow AI problem, right?
Oh, well, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah,
and exactly. You remember when MPS came out, people were kicking the tires for the first couple of years,
Yeah.
And they were just trying to think, well, should I get into it? Should I not get into it? And, in some cases it was too late for a lot of these guys. And you're right. I mean, this technology is just happening so fast, and you just have to experiment and be creative. And there's a whole community out there that's doing that, like you said, and you just learn from each other. And this is what we're trying to do, is actually educate the market that, hey, you know what, this is happening. It's like the next wave, like the internet was, in the 90s. This is the real next big thing that's really going to impact our lives forever.
Right. And I think, Randy, to your point, like getting that education piece out there and telling people what the possibilities are, right? I think of that in the context of where are people on sort of a maturity journey? Like, where are they? And the way that we're sort of developing our consultative move into the AI space is really based around that maturity level. It's really based around like, we can intercede at anywhere you are on that particular journey. We can help educate people. We can move people through the motions of getting comfortable. We can look at your infrastructure. We can talk about compliance, governance, security. We can also help you understand use cases, prioritization of use cases, so on and so forth. And none of that is like new thinking. All of that is foundational transformative efforts that are reasonable ways to get through technology. Like, we can ignore the fact that it's AI and we can talk about, we can transform businesses. We can help you be more efficient. We can help you have better customer service. We can help your customers feel more engaged with your business. Like, yeah, we're going to do that through AI, and that might freak you out because of all of the headlines and so on and so forth. But it's business transformation, right? Like, it's foundational. Yeah.
I think the difference too is that, sometimes you think of technologies as either being market driven, and this is not what some people are asking for. But people do have a need and a desire to, improve their operational excellence and figure out how to do things better and faster, the workflows and things like that. That's what's driving this and the creativity. It is hard to actually say that, hey, is the market asking for these things? Not necessarily directly, but they do need these things.
Right,
but
100%.
They didn't ask for the internet, right? And
exactly.
Yeah,
no,
right. And it's
the internet.
compelling people into that particular space starts with the outcomes. It starts with aligning on the outcomes that they're actually looking for. Like, what are you trying to do to your business? If you're trying to grow it, if you're trying to expand, if you're trying to make it more efficient, how do these goals intersect with this technology, right? And that to me is that's the spot, is like, talk to me about what your outcomes are, and I'll apply the appropriate technology. Unfortunately, if you hate AI, like, there's a good chance I'm going to be talking about AI, which happens. I'm totally flummoxed, right? I get into a meeting, I have a conversation with somebody, and the first thing they tell me is like, no AI, no automation. I'm like, I don't know what I can do for your business if you have these walls that are set up in that particular way. Like, don't tell me no AI, and no business. Tell me, I want my business to grow. I want my net income to be 10%. I want to be here. I want to be there. Like, okay, I can help you now, but you have to trust that I know what I'm doing.
Exactly.
So, like,
let's see where it fits, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
That, sometimes I get people that say, Wes, I don't want to, like, don't worry about, getting to what we do for a living and what hurts and everything else. Just give me the AI thing I need to buy to fix my business.
Right.
Wrong guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
like,
I don't know.
There's a bunch of AI platform vendors I can turn you on to. Like, go call those guys. They'll tell you immediately.
Solve
Like,
all your problems. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But let's find out what those problems are, what those objectives are. And let's fix
exactly.
those.
And emerging technology has always been plagued by like a sort of snake oil salesman mentality around, like, you have to get on board, you have to do these particular things, right? But our methodology has always been reasonable, foundational. Like, we're here to say, I can help you cut through that noise and understand what these outcomes are supposed to be and how to use this technology in the appropriate way. Like, if somebody shows up and they're like, I want AI, I'm like, for what? What do you want to do? What are you trying to do? Tell me what you're like. And the question I frame for them always is, if I do this for you, like, how is the world going to be different? Like, tell me about how your people show up. What happens when they sit down at their computers? What are their lives like? Centering it around the people who have those interactions with the technology, coupling that with the outcomes, then it starts to click in people's heads. Like, it's actually about my business. It's actually about, like, the best interest of what I'm doing and trying to achieve. If you care about those sorts of things, then, let me do the work we need to do, and we'll make it happen.
Amen.
Yep.
We did actually. Sorry, just to interrupt, that somebody had given us a thumbs up on that conversation, and Mark Whitlock said love the conversation. So thanks for joining us, Mark. For everyone else watching, if you do have questions or comments, we're pretty much at the end. Are you okay to run over a couple of minutes, John? Or
I am. Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, awesome. Because I don't want to cut this thing off short. But if anyone has any comments or questions, we love them. We also like to hear where you're watching from, so share. And if you have nice things to say about birding, feel free to comment.
Any questions about punk rock, I'll take those too.
I do want to move into one more area, kind of, and this is kind of cool, right? It's you're seeing it everywhere now, and people are talking about AI agents, right? And sort of how they're going to be able to truly, for the first time
Yeah.
ever, scaring people to death, saying it's going to really replace, people, right? And obviously, like, we both work with organizations that provide some level of agency in AI, right? So it's not a mystery
Mhm.
to those of us that are working from it. But what do you think? Where are we at with sort of agentic AI, and what do you think people should really know about it?
Good question. The way I've been thinking about this for like most of the year has been the run up to this agentic AI, to an actual agentic AI. Part of the vision that I try to put in front of people when we're talking about AI is that foundational idea. Like, I'm building this thing for you so that this can happen. And this I'm usually talking about is agentic. It's usually, I need you to make a general request to some AI system that then goes off and does all of the other things for you and pulls that all back, right? It's I think about it in the context too of, I talk about this thing I call the intern model a lot, where, like, if I'm going to employ a third-year college student and I'm going to sit them down next to you, what tasks are you going to give them to do? Those are great tasks to pick up for AI, right? In the
Yeah,
agentic space, it's more like, what if I give you 4? And what if one of those 4 totally understands your CRM? What if the other one totally understands your ERP? But you only have to talk to that first intern, right?
right.
Like, that to me is how this space sort of blows up, right? And from a functional perspective, Chris on my team and I talk about this a lot. Like, really what it's about is you build tools. You build a whole bunch of different tools, and you say, I need a connection to my ERP and I need it to do these particular things. Expect this input. And then you put that out into the world, and then you transfer the knowledge that's based in the question out to the particular tool, and then it drives that particular performance. It brings it all back and it sits in one spot. So, like, to me, the agentic thing is natural progression. It's, what do
Yeah,
we do when the agentic AI becomes so smart that I don't have to provide it tools? What do I
right.
do when it's so flexible that, like, it can access all of these things with little direction? That's the sort of space that's I see it on the horizon, and it's still fuzzy. But as we make our way through the agentic space we're in now, I feel like it's going to blow up in ways that people aren't anticipating right now.
Right. And what it can do already, right, even without sort of those advanced reasoning skills to, come up with its own way of doing things, right? And when you were talking about the intern, the one thing I was thinking about is you give them a certain list of tasks. Well, how do they prioritize those, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that's where agents can get, really useful, is when they're helping prioritize what those things are and moving through them. And we did have one from Max Wacker here. What's the best Misfit song for
Oh,
Halloween?
Max.
That's a
The best Misfits song for Halloween besides Halloween, maybe probably Astro Zombies.
I like Oh, that's going on my playlist.
Great band. But yeah, there's one more thing on this particular notion, right? The prioritization space. The way that we've been thinking about AI has been prioritizing immediacy and accuracy of response, right? Everyone's heads are around this idea that, like, if I'm going to interact with an AI, I'm going to ask it a question, I'm going to give it a task, it's going to give me the data, it's going to be accurate, and I'm going to move on, right? What we need to do is start shifting people's heads from the immediacy and accuracy space into the thoroughness and depth of analysis space, right? So now, if we start to look at it in the sort of chain of thought space, if we start to say, if I gave this task to 4 interns, would I really want them to come back to me in 3 minutes with the response, or would I want them to go off and do the work and
Right.
do the thing that's necessary to give me the deliverable, right? And that to me is a shift that has to start to happen, where people, they deprioritize the immediacy of it, and they prioritize the depth of analysis and the quality of output, right? And those things feel a little bit in conflict sometimes. But when we get more into the agentic space, it does become more like, here's a package of information and things I need you to accomplish. Like, go and accomplish this package and get back to me with the appropriate thing. Here's my notes. Give me a PowerPoint presentation that hits these 4 marks from these 15 other presentations I made.
Well,
know?
and what's really cool is like, I know when I'm working on a project or an assessment for a client, I have to reach out with further questions, right? If I'm not clear about something or anything else, to have the AI agents do that, right? To actually be able to, take it away
Yeah.
and then ask you for additional things. Like, hey, I was thinking about this direction. I'm not quite sure, John. Can you just give me a little more direction on this point? Oh, sure. Oh, thanks. And off it goes
Right.
to do it. And
Yeah,
that
exactly.
I'm with you. I think that the reliability and the thoroughness of what those agents can do should be prioritized
Yeah,
much, much more than the speed of how they can do it, right?
exactly. And
Yeah.
also, like, I might have an intern, and that intern's going to go off on lunch and fly a kite, but my agents are going to keep running through and doing all the work and giving me all the data back, and they're
right.
they're not distractible in that in the same way a
They
third
don't
year
need to
college student
sleep. They
might
don't
be.
need to eat, things like that,
Right, exactly.
They don't get angry. They don't get hangry,
Right.
absolutely. Well, listen, I mean, that's really all the time that we do have for today. And John, I cannot thank you enough for,
Oh yeah,
joining us, right?
it's a pleasure.
And for everyone out there, I'm just going to give you a little plug. I certainly encourage everyone to visit impactmybank.com. You can reach out there and learn more about the crazy cool things that Impact is doing. And of course, you want to make sure that you skip over to Keypoint Intelligence as well. We'll learn about all of the services and stuff that Randy was talking about earlier, so we can continue to do this show, right? We'll give you this. You come and visit us on the web pages. And of course, come visit GoWest.ai as well. This is what we do. We live, breathe, and absolutely love everything to do with AI and the folks that we're fortunate enough to to work with here. Yeah. So John, thank you so much again for joining.
Oh yeah,
Again,
thanks for having me, Wes. I appreciate it, and nice meeting you, Randy.
Nice meeting you too,
yeah.
John.
And again, as we started with, for everyone that's in Florida right now, our hearts go out to you. And I've reached out to one dealer already to offer any assistance that I can. And I mean, it's ridiculous. What can I do? But our thoughts are with you, and any any folks out there, be thinking of them too. And for our viewers, for everyone that joined in, if you're listening, if you're watching either this live version or watching the recorded version on LinkedIn afterwards, thank you so much. And we're going to put you on the spot, John. We always end with a slogan. Mine is, until next time, keep learning. And Randy?
Is be curious.
John?
Embrace uncertainty.
Ooh,
Love
I like that. I like that.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.